Hello, I'm Chris Parkin. This is the Savage Model 110 BA Carbon Tactical in 308 Winchester. Welcome to Gun Mart TV. Well, you've seen the rifle shoot now, and I think, like me, you'll be quite impressed with how well it did shoot with factory ammunition. This is a proof research barrel that Savage are using, and I have to say it's very much impressed me. I'm always a little bit cautious of carbon barrels because of certain mechanical and thermal properties they have, but let me tell you more. Now this one is cut rifle, and it's a stainless steel liner within the carbon fibre outer that you can see. It's a lovely matte finish on the outside, so it doesn't glare, doesn't shine too much, and you can see the stainless steel both at the muzzle and at the breech here. The muzzle is screw cut 5/8 by 24 for a moderator or break, and it does have a super neat crown on it. The back end here at the breech is marked as a 1 in 10 twist rate, which is suitable for the heavier 308 bullets that this rifle's chambered in, but it's also going to be great for non-toxic, as was proved on camera. Savage use a barrel nut system to tighten the barrel into the steel action, and that means they've got total control over the head spacing of the chamber. They do this with go and no-go gauges in the factory by hand. I've actually watched it being done, and it does give you a very close tolerance on the head space. It also means if you ever want to change barrels, it's not difficult to do, and you basically have an oversized spanner to go on the lock nut here. That comes off the barrel and threads, and you reverse the process to go back in using go and no-go gauges for the new chambering. I don't think anybody's going to disagree. Savage have used a very large bolt handle on this rifle. It's a 2-lug bolt, and to remove the bolt you squeeze the trigger and press the lever down on the side there, and the bolt will come out. And if we look at Savage's bolt head here, it's a regular push feed bolt. It's got a mechanical extractor on the right side here, and there's also an automatic sprung plunger ejector on the lower side there. What's interesting to some people is that the bolt heads are removable. There are also secondary lugs here which help the bolt run more smoothly, and when it locks in position, those maintain position within the raceways down the action. There are also twin gas escape ports on either side of the receiver, and that is generally how most rifles work. So if a case does ever happen to rupture, and that's not saying anything specifically about a Savage, that is where the gas escapes to. To put the bolt back in, you can just slide it in position, pull the trigger, push the lever down, and the bolt will go home there. Bolt stroke is actually 100mm. The handle length is almost 80mm, and that's actually capped by a 22mm diameter, 40mm long knurled section here. So there's certainly plenty to get hold of, although it is quite large. And is this a sporting or is this a tactical rifle? More about that in a minute. The magazine is a 10 round AICS compatible unit. It's a polymer one supplied. There's a large release catch at the back there. Those pop in, pop out very easily, and you can get spares. 10 rounds going to the top of the magazine one at a time, and as you can see on camera, cycling of the action, feeding of the rounds and ejection are all totally reliable. Savage's AccuTrigger features an inner blade here. Some people like it, some people don't. I just treat it a bit like a two-stage trigger because you take up first pressure and second pressure is very crisp at 960 grams, which is 34 ounces. The reason for the inner blade is because if the trigger is squeezed without the inner blade being pushed in, the action will go dead, and that is a completely inert action, totally safe to use. And that is the joy of the safety system on the AccuTrigger, because you can't have a negligent discharge because of the trigger. The trigger is adjustable from 24 to 64 ounces, which is 681 to 1800 grams. I'm just going to pop the scope off now so you can see the safety catch in operation. This loophole scope's been put on with quick release rings, so I can just undo those on the side, lift that out of the way because I want to show you the safety catch. Now Savage used a tang safety here, so it's forward for fire, and this is a safe discharge. The middle position allows bolt operation but no firing, and the rearmost position, no firing, and it also locks the bolt completely. Push that back forward and you're back in action. I could just put this scope back on, but I'm going to leave it off for the moment because I want to show you a few more things. The bottom metal on the action is aluminium, and there's a large trigger guard, gives you plenty of space for gloved hands in the winter. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the rifle out of its stock to show you some of the mechanics of the AccuStock principle. So if I just pop that, turn that over, take the bolt back out, and we use an Allen key on the underside, remove the front action screw here, just undo that, and then the rear action screw is actually underneath the magazine release catch. The third screw here is just to hold the whole trigger guard in position. You don't need to touch it to do that. And now if I lift this off, the rifle will come away. Looking a little bit about it, you can see the AccuTrigger system here, the bolt release catch, everything about it. Here's the recoil lug pinned between the barrel and the action, and that transfers all the recoil into the actual stock itself. But let's show you the bedding block. When I turn this over, I need to just be careful I don't drop the screws out. This is what Savage call their AccuStock, and it's a full aluminium bedding block which in their descriptive terms gives a vice-like grip on the action. What I can tell you is this, that the action touches only that bedding block, the barrel is fully free floating, and when I put this back onto the action, that will tighten back in position. There'll be probably no loss of zero at all, but importantly when I tighten these screws down, I can feel there's no sort of sponginess as they tighten in position. You tighten them up and they just lock in position. So I'll do the front one first, and I can feel that lock at a hard stop. There's no sponginess at all, and the same at the rear. And what that also implies is that there's no bedding stress within the action and rifle interface, and that gives a great contribution towards excellent accuracy on the rifle. Another thing seen here is the Picatinny rail on top for scope mounting. That's inclined 20 minutes of angle, so it gives a little bit better long range potential. Now let's look at the rest of the AccuStock. Now you're probably wondering what all these pieces of plastic are on the bench here. Now this is all part of the Savage AccuStock principle, because this cheek piece is removable, and also the recoil pad and all the recoil spaces are removable, and you are supplied with spares. So you get various different heights of cheek piece. We've got them low to high, medium size, another medium size there, and then the recoil pad is spaced with these spacer systems here. And these spacers all stack together and interlock precisely like that, so you can control length length of pull exactly how you want it. It's a little bit tricky to do on camera because you do just put the screwdriver in the back end here. There are 2 screws within, but you've just got to fish around a little bit just to find them within that rubber. The Phillips screws inside, and you do get spare screws of different lengths supplied to make sure the ones you're using are the suitable length for whichever length of pull you choose. Length of pull can be adjusted from 12.75 to 15.1 inches, which is 324 to 385 millimeters, stacking different numbers of spacers. There are 2 studs fitted on the stock's forend for the bipod or sling, and there's another stud at the rear so you can carry the gun comfortably. Savage call this a beaver tail forend, and it has got quite a large flat base on it, which means that when you're shooting it from sticks especially, it's quite stable in the aim point. There's no bend, there's no twist in the stock, and there's actually in the back end there's a foam core within here which minimises the amount of noise you're going to get from it bumping or tapping against anything. Overall length of the rifle is 42 inches or 1070 millimeters, depending on exact length of pull you use. Overall weight is 7.65 pounds or 3.5 kilograms. Right, I'll just put this back together now while I tell you the rest of the details about the gun. I'm always a little bit cautious of carbon barrels, as I said, but the proof research on this rifle is very stable. Carbon barrels are effectively, it's using an insulator around that steel, so the steel both heats up quicker and doesn't cool down as easily. So it's very interesting to see how they're going to perform as they get hot, because of course you've got 2 dissimilar materials with different thermal expansion properties. What's impressed me most about this gun is the fact that in a 28-degree air temperature on the day I was using it, with over 50 rounds shot throughout the afternoon, and there was no shade whatsoever for cooling the rifle either, this thing didn't shift point of impact. Now the rifle is supplied with a 10-round magazine, so you'd think I'd review it with 10-round groups, but it's a slightly unusual rifle in certain ways because to me the stock is a little bit more of a sporter type stock, yet the bolt and the magazine sort of imply it's a bit more of a tactical rifle, and Savage do themselves call it a tactical rifle. The FDE in the name stands for flat dark earth, which is the colour of the stock. Yet opposite to that, you've got this super lightweight carbon barrel, which although remaining very stiff, saves weight, and although it looks like a heavy barrel, it isn't physically heavy. And you do have to wonder slightly whether those extra 5 rounds in that magazine make up for the weight you've just saved with the carbon barrel. Popping the bolt back in shows you again its dimensions and size compared to the rifle, and you will see a little bit on camera that when reloading it, it is going to bump into your hat if you are wearing a hat. But that will suit some people and not others, and it does mean you've got a massive amount of mechanical leverage to lift the bolt, to cycle the action without disturbing the rifle at all. So again, it comes back to it being quite a precision rifle, and I think the barrel definitely stands up to that usage. If the gun were mine, I'd swap it to a 5-round magazine immediately, because I think it just changes the looks and puts it back into that sporting rifle ethos a little bit more, and I'd happily use this for hunting because it is accurate, it is consistent, and it's very precise on target. Savage rifles are certainly very tough and they stand up to day-to-day handling. That bedding block in the AccuStock is a superb factor, which means that this rifle is going to take those daily bumps and bangs. It's not going to suffer with atmospheric problems like a wooden stock will, and unlike some polymer stocks, it's not bending to the shape of the receiver, which causes bedding stress, and when you change conditions and change scenarios, that can be a detrimental factor. The barrel is fully free floated, it remains so from different shooting positions, and when you are shooting it prone, the stock is stiff enough to load into it without bending it down. The recoil pad is very soft and absorbent, so you don't feel punishing recoil, but the rifle is itself only available in 6.5 Creedmoor, 6.5 PRC and 308, none of which are particularly hard hitting calibers. Some people like soft recoil pads, other people prefer firmer recoil pads. That choice is entirely up to you because you can change them around if you want to. If you do change the cheek piece components, you'll notice there are 6 teeth on there which lock precisely in position to avoid any rattles, and of course the recoil pad on the back screws into position, locks everything in place, so there's no movement or rattle of any description from those components. Here you can see the moulded checkering on the forend and also on the grip, which means you've got good tactile perception of the rifle, plenty of grip there for your fingers as well, and the stock is ambidextrous, you can shoot it from either way around if necessary. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that review. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to Gun Mart TV to keep track of the regular uploads. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.